No.
You know what 00 is?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
You got it, buddy.
Got it.
And I'm going to need you to sign this non-compete form.
Non-disclosure and non-compete.
All right. Well, I had to. I don't know whose fault all this was, but I did get my internet speed improved by a factor of 5 with that phone call. So my voice should be fine. To do that, one of the things I had to do was leave the room and go to another room where I don't have access to my desktop, so I lost my hats off. So I got to find it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Take a
Fair
second.
enough.
Take a second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to bite the bullet. Are we going to bite the bullet and do both of them still?
Whatever. I don't know. Whatever.
I was hear what's being said. Everything's breaking up for me.
What?
Could you guys hear everything Kent said just now?
Yes.
It wasn't that good.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Well, I'll say because I got like every other word and I was like, what is happening? Trying to piece it together.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
But you can hear me okay, right?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
are fine.
Okay. Well, that's good. I don't really need to hear what you guys are saying. I don't listen anyway.
I don't know how you're going to respond to anything, but okay.
So anyway, back to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, my thoughts were, that's not related. Oh well.
If we could just do one tonight, since it's 9:15, I would be really appreciative.
Yeah.
That will work just fine.
I'm sorry. I'm just
No,
not a night owl these days, especially.
Yeah, and I'm kind of tired,
Mhm.
so that's fine by me. Because, yeah, we should be finishing up the first one right about
Now.
10 minutes
Yeah.
ago.
Look at
Yeah.
my Epcot mug, by the way.
Oh, wow.
nice.
Isn't that so cool?
Very cool.
Yes,
huge.
Kara, that's amazing. It's not
Thanks for the affirmation.
It's stupid.
Uh.
Really dumb.
It's
Oh,
video
it's
chat.
so great.
Are we gonna do a second one then tomorrow? Is that what we should do?
I have another one. I have two kind of in the pot right now, so I think we'll be okay.
In the pot.
In the queue?
In the
And the can.
In the can.
All right, I want to do a hats off.
Okay, I want to do a hats off.
You too. Do hats off. I'll save mine.
Okay.
Really?
Well, Ken was looking real hard for his, though. Should we?
I can do mine later. It'll save, but
Okay.
because it was brand new news today. But
All
whatever.
right.
Yeah, mine will save too.
Okay. All right. As long as you guys are good with that.
I'm good with it.
All right, so hats off.
All right.
Who's going first?
I'll go first.
Who's on second?
What?
No. Who's on first?
What's on second?
I didn't know if we decided what we're gonna do.
Okay. By the way, are we doing the first topic still?
Yes.
Okay.
First topic.
All right. So my hats off is actually to Calvin Moore this week.
Wait,
What?
let me guess why.
Wait, this is the second. This is the second time that I've gotten a hats off on this show. This is kind of cool. I'm okay with this. Let's let it roll. Let it roll, Kent. Don't try to interrupt her hats off. You get a chance next week. Get a chance next week.
So my hats off is to Calvin Moore, who pulled off the biggest and best surprise of my life,
what surprise was it?
and he proposed to me
Yay!
on my birthday at a surprise party, and I had no idea.
Wait. That's what that ring meant? I just thought you had pretty things. I just, oh no.
So,
This has gotten really serious very quickly. I was
Uh-huh.
wondering why everybody was so happy the last few weeks.
Oh no.
No.
anyhow, so he did, oh my goodness, so good. He had me fooled. I had no clue. I thought it was just going to be, the surprise party was a surprise, first of all, so he succeeded at that. And then I thought that was it. That was the surprise. And nope, there was even more. And so he did amazing, and he's amazing, and I am happy to announce that I said yes. So I will be his wife.
Hooray!
Hooray! And I just want to jump in with a little bonus hats off. I want to say hats off to Cal and Jen for asking me to sing Ave Maria at their wedding. So
That's
I
wonderful.
Baby,
been-
did you have this conversation without me?
That is apparently still under review.
That's funny, Ken. I'm actually singing Copacabana. It's gonna be amazing.
See, this,
Are
this
you?
is
Okay.
why I should not drunk call my friends.
Oh no.
Did you call him?
No,
Oh.
totally made up. I love how gullible she is. It's like, what?
Sorry, you're gonna have to work that in somehow,
Did you
Jen.
do that? I've got a what?
You're gonna have to work that in somewhere, Ave Maria.
All right.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny is my mother. That boy's got some range. Wow.
I do.
Okay.
That's
It's
quite
gonna
the
be
setup.
great. It's gonna be
Oh,
so
you got
So
your
the
oven
interesting thing about that is my mom and dad, when they got married illegally because my dad was in the Naval Academy, and at that time it was all men, and you couldn't get married while you were in the academy.
Huh.
And they snuck off one weekend, got married, and they never asked my dad about it, so he never had to lie about it. But so they never had a big ceremony. They just went to the Justice of the Peace, and they were married. And then years later, all their children were grown, and we did a rededication of their marriage. I believe it was at the 30-year mark at that point. And, 30-year mark. And so it was like their first wedding, essentially. It was like having a first wedding. And my mother actually sang Ave Maria as she walked down the aisle.
She sang
She
it
sang it herself?
She sang it
Huh.
herself.
Wow.
She sang it herself. My
She
mother,
was
That's
the bride
impressive.
and the wedding singer.
yes,
I
and
don't think I've ever heard your mother sing.
yeah, my mother can sing.
Wow.
She got some pipes on her.
Well, if she can sing that song, then
That's
she
probably
must.
why I can sing as well. So,
You should have her on the show. You guys could do a duet.
but yeah, that'll probably never happen. But either way,
Well,
We can
Anyone who has ever seen the Godfather movies knows that nothing bad has ever happened when Ave Maria was performed at a wedding.
Do you renounce all the ways of the devil? I do.
I do.
Either way.
So anyhow,
So,
hats off to you
hats
and
off
hats
to
off
me.
to our life together.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Mhm.
So
I'm really happy. You
now,
made me
see,
happy.
now I feel like I should have gone first. 'cause
And Cal, what's yours about? About Jen?
My
His
hats
hats
off.
off is about the amazing woman that he's gonna marry. No, just kidding.
Actually, it has nothing to do with that at all.
Pressure.
Yeah. I don't know how amazing she's going to be when we're married. So we'll see. Things can change. People go-
You can do that hats off later when it's confirmed.
So this
There
one,
you go. There
this
you go.
story came out today, and before we did the podcast, we talked about who was going to go and do their hats off this week or not. And both Kara and Kent said that theirs could wait, but both said that theirs had happened recently. And so at the time we're doing this recording, it's October 26, 2015, and this story comes from October 26, 2015. And the story, the headline reads, Dad learns unborn twin brother fathered his son.
Here's why I'm glad you're going, because that was mine.
That was my backup one.
That is so
This
funny.
story, you can't not love this story.
You can't. No.
It's great. Yeah, it's great.
Says, sorry, sir, you're not the father of your newborn child. Your unborn brother is. So a 34-year-old man was told in the only known case of a paternity test being tricked by a so-called human chimera, the Independent reports. It began when a U.S. couple learned that their son, born healthy in 2014 with the aid of a fertility clinic, had a different blood type than his parents. Concerned, the husband took an at-home paternity test and learned that his DNA didn't match the son's. You can imagine the parents were pretty upset. Stanford University geneticist Barry Starr tells BuzzFeed. They thought the clinic had used the wrong sperm. The clinic assured them there was no mix-up, so the couple got a lawyer and approached Starr for help. On Starr's advice, the father and son took DNA ancestry tests and learned that genetically the dad was his son's uncle.
Yep.
That is crazy to me to read that.
It makes me think, I don't know if you guys are fans of The Office, but Dwight talks about how he's super strong because he absorbed his twin in the womb. So this guy
Yes.
is Dwight.
It's exactly what happened. I now have the strength of a grown man and a little baby.
Exactly,
Wow.
yes.
No, I don't know what that would do. Like if I found out that I had absorbed the DNA of a twin brother in the womb. Twins run in my family, but if I had found something like that out, and then something came up where my daughter needed something from me as her parent, and lo and behold, boom, I'm a chimera, which I think is just kind of a cool name for having really messed up genetics. But I'm just trying to think of the practical implications of this in regards to being related to your family. Like, okay, so what if they got divorced and the mom was trying to sue for, like, child support? Could the dad be like, I'm not the father at that point?
Oh, that's where legally things get messy, I guess.
I don't know.
I don't think it's that messy.
But, like,
he's on the birth
he's on the
certificate,
yeah, I was gonna say he's on the birth certificate. So
I don't know.
it's interesting though. Like, you even think about, like, what does that mean? For them just.
I don't know. DNA tests let prisoners out of prison. So my name might be on a confession form, but then DNA exonerates me. So my name might be on a on a birth certificate, but then DNA exonerates.
Well, but the thing is their DNA is very similar. So is it similar enough to show a match
Just
in
saying,
something
he's
like
her
that?
uncle. He's her uncle.
But is it similar enough to show a match in that, but not an exact one? Like, for example, if I take a DNA test, mine is not going to be the same as my mother's, but it's going to have similarities. So it will show that I'm, like, somehow family, right?
We're now in the realm of me not knowing what we're talking about. Like, I could talk on a general knowledge about DNA.
So it's still going to show that you're related. Like, it's not going to show that there's no relation.
It said that it showed that genetically the dad was his son's uncle.
Right, not his direct son, DNA-wise. But that doesn't mean that it didn't show that they weren't related.
Could he be mad at his dead brother for cheating with his wife?
Well, keep in mind, his dead brother probably got no bigger than a cluster of like 16 cells and then ceased to exist.
He came back with a vengeance, though.
Okay.
He came back with a vengeance.
All right.
Back from the dead.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Does that mean that his wife had sex with a ghost?
No.
No.
Are you sure?
No.
Yeah.
That was the Virgin Mary. Wait, no.
No. I'm not sure how that works either.
Okay.
Alrighty.
I don't know where we're going with this.
I don't either.
Getting slightly awkward.
So let's go on.
Welcome to the best podcast in the world.
That's right, we are. Or at
Okay,
least
can I just
think so.
Can I just take a pause and tell you my son was crying at the door? So I opened it and I was like, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Mommy, I have bad news." And I was like, "Oh no,
Uh-oh.
what's happening?" He said, "I had a dream. I fought Goliath. He had a furry head and I threw a donut."
All right.
That was worth interrupting me for. Absolutely. So thank you.
Oh, that's
Hats off to Asher.
Now,
I have bad news.
Kara, is Todd genetically the father of Asher?
I mean, we haven't had any paternity tests done, but I mean, it's either him or his unborn twin brother, so I'm good with.
You know
either way.
what's important in that sentence, Kara, is the word unborn to make it a joke. Because
Yeah, it's either him or his twin brother.
There's
I'm
people who have divorces over their twin brothers.
right.
Just
right.
saying.
Yes. Yeah, the unborn twin that he absorbed in the womb.
Right.
So
Okay.
weird.
That is
Okay,
so weird.
so here's what was it? There was something that I wanted to say.
Don't know.
And
Your story
can't
about yesterday?
remember. Yeah. Okay.
Fine,
So
okay.
I guess we'll get into the topic for this week because I couldn't remember what I was going to say next. It was going to be some joke, but I think we got enough mileage out of that one.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is not going to make the podcast real quick. The whole the hunters shooting into the zoo thing for you, Kent.
Yeah.
Gosh, I thought that was perfect. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
oh man.
That made me
The
so
worst.
angry and hilarious.
The worst. This is the worst. But I decided not to use it. Okay, so this week the question is. Hold on, I have it on here. Jen is going through my phone and changing things.
This is going to get edited out.
Hmm?
I didn't go through yours. I'm going through mine.
No, I mean, it was okay. Never mind. Jacob Sessions podcast. Jacob Sessions. Okay. So the question we're going to do, the topic we're going to do is there a point where a parent no longer bears the responsibility for their child's action or actions or presented manner, i.e., state of dress, speech, disrespect for authority, etc. And the question sprung from a question I had about modesty that I'll share in a minute. But I don't necessarily want this conversation to be about modesty. I think there'll be touch points that will mention modesty, I'm sure. But I don't want it to be all about modesty, because we've had a conversation about modesty in the past, in the recent past, if I'm not mistaken. But what happened was yesterday, Jen and I were out visiting a friend. Her new store had opened, kind of a jewelry store called Kara's, interestingly enough. And
it's
by
my
the
store.
by the way, in addition to that, Kara, Supergirl premieres tonight.
I saw that.
So yeah, so you can finally watch it, and I can finally watch the second episode next week.
Oh, can't wait.
After a long wait. But
I realized
so
as we were prepping this, I was just going to say, I realized as we were prepping this this podcast that it's like, oh darn, I forgot to DVR Supergirl. Oh, I've seen it.
You've seen it, right?
I've seen it. We've all seen it. Yeah.
I
We've all
haven't.
seen it.
Oh, that's right,
Oh,
because Kara's a stick in the mud.
Now you know how to download it. Now you know how to download it.
I do.
Since I taught you how to download all the Vampire Diaries, but that's neither here nor there. We wanted to go into this new jewelry store. It opened on Sunday, which was yesterday at the time we're doing this, and just kind of show support to our friends. We don't have any friends in the city. They're really the only ones that we hang out with on a regular basis, and that's more of a recent thing that's been really cool. But we were in the shops at Rochester Hills, and there was a Buckle store. And I really like going to the Buckle. I've got a Buckle Black card. I buy a lot of my clothes there. And so we went down there, and there was what I assumed to be a man and his really provocatively dressed and hot wife, arguably hot wife. And what I assumed...
And she was dressed to be very, very old.
Yeah, and what I assumed was their son. But she was kind of young looking, and I was like, all right, well, maybe, I don't know if this is his girlfriend or his wife or his daughter. I'm not sure what's going on. But as they passed by me several times, and I literally had to, turn my eyes away because all I could think of was having sex with her. That was the only thought that crossed my mind, based upon the way that she was dressed. She had on thigh-high... knee-high boots.
I was like, thigh-high, holy moly.
Yeah, knee-high socks, knee-high boots, a really tight mini skirt, a really tight top that was showing her midriff as well, and kind of this cute black sweater to go over it. And all I could think of was, yeah, she's hot. I'd do her. And I know that's a reflection of me, but I thought maybe she's older, maybe this is his girlfriend. And as they were walking by me to leave the store, she said, Dad, what time is Mom coming home? And I was like, holy crap, this girl is like 15. And so all creepiness of me being a grown man aside, looking at a 15-year-old girl,
You didn't realize.
The idea was she is dressed much older than she is 15 years old. I did not solicit her. I would not solicit her. Just because the question was in my mind of is she or isn't she of age, and of course I'm also engaged. But the question that then came up for me was, is there a point where a parent no longer bears the responsibility for their child's actions or presented manner? Because for me, my initial thought after knowing this is his daughter was that father ought to be ashamed of himself for letting his daughter out of the house wearing that. I don't think that she is a slut. I'm not slut shaming. I think people should be able to wear whatever they want to wear within reason, within accepted norms, I guess. And maybe that's where people get upset with me. But I just felt like, Dad, you're failing here. Yes, I know you're there to protect her right now, but you're, I guess, essentially by letting her wear this out of the house, you're accepting that this type of clothing is okay. It brings the attention of, older men, let alone prepubescent boys who aren't cognitive enough to know that I shouldn't lay my hands on her, and I shouldn't rape her, and I shouldn't make lewd comments about her and things like that. I looked at it as a dad, despite the fact that, yeah, she's hot and I'd like to do her. Once I found out she was 15, I was like, absolutely don't want to do anything like that. But then it went to judgment of the parent, not of the girl. She's 15. What does she know, right? So my question then is for our group, that was kind of a long explanation, and most of that will be cut off, is, you know, where does a parent's responsibility stop?
Where does it begin and end, maybe?
That is a tricky question. I have all kinds of thoughts going on in my head right now. Like, I am with you, Cal. I feel like if I saw that, my first instinct would be kind of judgmental. Like, I would never let my daughter out of the house like that. But on the other hand, I mean, I don't know what has gone on behind the scenes in that family. You know, maybe what she was wearing there was a step up from what she usually wears. I don't know. Maybe she goes out in her bikini usually. I don't know. Maybe, you know, they had a talk about modesty and choices, and she was being belligerent and said, I'm going to wear this anyway, and maybe he was taking her out on a life lesson to point out the dirty look she was getting. I don't really know. I mean, I try not to judge another parent's parenting, but it does definitely make you think, like, if that were my daughter, would I take her out in public looking like that? Would I make her stay home if she refused to change? Would I physically force her to change? I mean, at 15, it's not like, you know, Asher, he's 3, I can wrestle the clothes onto him that he's going to wear. But with a 15-year-old, you can't really do that. So I don't know. It's a tricky question.
Is it terrible for me to say that I don't really know how to answer the question without having seen the outfit? Because part of the description was knee-high boots, which would have passed muster at my Christian school for dress code. So
they were thigh-high boots, you said.
They were thigh-high a second ago, but I thought they got downgraded to knee-highs.
Well, I mean, they're like slightly above the knee, but not all the way up to the thigh.
That's still thigh-high.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know women's fashion as much. You know, I know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but either way, like, I saw a good. She had long legs too, so a good deal of flesh was visible of her legs, despite how long the boots were. And then, of course, the boots, you know, heels do something to your butt, so they push your butt out. So, you know, her butt is out, and her tight shirt is accentuating her, what I would assume to be still developing chest area now that I know her general age. So I guess, think of outfits that young ladies who are in their in their early 20s are wearing to go to the club to get the attention of guys.
I would think
that's the kind of outfit she was wearing.
Yeah, and I would think, like, there's absolutely, I think a parent feels responsibility. I don't think it's an obligation that parents are like, they must control their daughter, but I do think it's a responsibility as a parent you feel to help shape the way they think about the world. So that help her understand, like, why are you putting these clothes on your body? I would think as a father, especially as a man, he can relate to what other men might think, seeing her dressed like that, and teaching her and educating her, because there will come a point where, you know, she'll be on her own and making her own choices, and he won't really have a say in that. So, I mean, I think absolutely there's a responsibility in our parenting to teach our children. But, I mean, there is also a point where you have to kind of let them figure some stuff out on their own, too.
Well, okay, so my thought is this. Like, I don't want to just, oh, well, I don't know the situation, so I don't want to judge it. In my mind, I think it's no different, and we got to keep it equal and fair. We would have no question with essentially judging that a father should be teaching or a mother should be teaching their son to respect, women. They should be teaching them to, not treat them as objects, that, they have value, this and that. They're not sex objects. There's, hold doors open, whatever. Like, we have no problem with the standard that men should learn to respect women. And that we as parents, I say we, not me specifically, but as a society that parents are to teach their boys how to be respectful, good men. So I think that because there's been this pendulum of, or this thought process of blaming a girl if something happens, then we're afraid to talk about, I think, the also equal responsibility that we have to teach women. It's not about, oh, you can't wear pants or you can't wear, it's teaching women to respect themselves. It goes both ways. So we can't just teach our boys to be good, respectful men. We also have to teach our women, our girls, to be women who both respect themselves and others, who demand that respect for themselves. And I think that that's where it comes down to the parenting.
And it's definitely a factor that, you're right, Jen, like everybody has different ideas of what's okay. And for some people, it's very empowering for a woman to show a lot of skin, or to carry herself in such a way that gets male attention. And so, without, maybe that's a way that her mom dresses. I don't know. So it's very possible that's it's definitely like a cultural situation going on there if that's the case, because you're right. Like, I do see moms out shopping with their teenage girls and some of the things that they buy them, and I think, really, you're buying that for them? Because, like, if I was going to wear something like that, I would have to buy it myself and hide it in my bag to change outside the house.
Well, I think it's not about, like, okay, there are differences in what one culture to the next will consider modest versus immodest. And that's true, but I think the idea of teaching them to present themselves in a respectful way and demand, or expect, maybe is a better word, expect that respect, it also follows suit. So, in for example, the Muslim culture, the highest level of respect is, I don't remember what those are called, those top to bottom kind of coverings. And that's a sign of ultra respect.
You mean the burqa or the hijab?
The burqa. The hijab only covers the head.
Okay.
The burqa, yeah. That's like a huge honor for them in their society. But in ours, we'd be like, no, I'm not wearing that. So, I mean, there's different levels of that, but still, you don't have to be, covered from head to toe to present yourself respectfully.
Okay, and so, and I don't want this conversation to be so much about modesty as I do about parental responsibility, and where does that end, and someone's autonomy begins. And I've kind of asked a few people throughout the week, or not throughout the week, throughout the day, because it's just happened yesterday, about this. And one of the things I was thinking is, if we put this on men, okay, I was taught as a young man to not sag my pants. I was taught to dress well. I was taught to speak well. I was taught to work hard because as an African American, I generally am going to have to work twice as hard to get noticed or to be accepted. I am going to have to speak the language of the quote-unquote ruling class in order to be accepted. I am going to have to dress a certain way if I want to be accepted in the business world, in the corridors of power, and that goes for that's regardless of race on that one. You know what? If you're walking into an office in downtown Detroit, you're not going to have your pants sag, And the fact of the matter is, your state of dress, the way that you present yourself, whether we like it or not, people make snap judgments. People have perceptions. And one of the things that I learned when I worked in retail, was perception is reality. Mm-hmm. Whether that's true or not, it is for the person that is perceiving you. And so if I am wearing pants around my ankles, I might have 3 degrees. One of them's a graduate degree, working on a second one. I might have a job. I might have a car. I might have a place of my own. I might have a fiance. I might pay my bills on time. But the way that I'm going to be perceived is probably that guy's a thug. And they're not going to go beyond that. Is that on that person? Knowing the rules of how our society works, I think it's partially on that person and partially on me. Now, what I don't want that to say is getting over into a woman dressing provocatively and above her age. And the above her age suggests that people should dress this way at all. I think there are certain forms of dress that people just shouldn't wear, guys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always about the girls. But either way, I think that when you get to that particular conversation, what I don't want people to hear is a parallel between, hey, you know what, if you dress provocatively, people are going to think that you should put out, and therefore that gives them the right to say all sorts of dirty things to you. That gives them the right to slut shame you or assume that you are a slut.
Yeah, because that's not okay.
That's not okay. But at the same time, it's interesting. I say that with tension because there's a comedian by the name of Dave Chappelle. Most people know who that guy is. And in part of his stand-up, he talked about a woman dressed a particular way, and he thought that she was a prostitute. And he said something to her, and she said, "Oh, just because I am dressed this way does not make me a prostitute." And he said, that would be like me putting on a police officer's uniform and someone running up to me and saying, oh, thank God, officer, you're here. Oh, you had these guys chasing us, and we don't know what to do. And me saying, whoa. Just because I'm wearing a police officer's uniform does not make me a police officer. It's like, so you might not be a prostitute, but you're wearing a prostitute's uniform.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize Dave Chappelle was a conservative.
Well, I mean, he makes some salient points, is what I'm saying. And some people would say that feeds into rape culture, but I think that the idea of, I think where the conversation of rape culture goes, and again, I don't want this to be about rape culture, is to an extreme that a woman has to take absolutely zero responsibility because it has this myopic view of the world that says, I view the world as it ought to be. It ought to be a place where men don't think terrible things about women based on what they dress in. It ought to be a place where men don't put their hands on women and catcall them. It ought to be a place where men don't rape women. Unfortunately, it is a world where those things happen. Mm-hmm. And so, accordingly, I think that women should dress a certain way. I live in a world, like it or not, where certain ideas exist about what it means to be black. And so I'm a greater risk to be hired in certain jobs. And so I don't wear my pants sagged around my butt. I speak the Queen's English, so to speak. I have an education. I have certain things, and I play those things up because I know there are certain rules and expectations in the culture in which I live. Should I be judged just on the merits of the degrees and the work that I present? Absolutely. But that is not the world that we live in. Therefore, I prepare myself for the world that I live in while also working towards the world that we ought to live in.
Right.
Let me ask you this, Cal. I don't remember how long ago this was. If it was before the podcast, before I joined, or before or after. But when I remember on Facebook, when you cut off your dreadlocks, was that just I'm doing something new with fashion, or was that this is what I need? Or was that a decision like, this is what I need to do to succeed in business in this world?
It was a mix. No one ever told me. No one ever passive-aggressively told me or said verbally, you need to cut your dreads. But I did feel that I went from working at Apple computers, where everybody had cool tattoos and crazy hair, different colors and gauges in their ears and all those kinds of things, and a post through their nose. I went from working in that world to all of a sudden being in the same room with the mayor of Detroit and Dan Gilbert, who owns 70% of downtown Detroit, right? And so I've never met those guys, but I was in the same room, and everybody in the room had nice cropped haircuts or wearing nice suits, and I was like, okay, maybe I ought to look the part, and so I cut my hair. And then also, it's interesting. I was working for a company, and we had this big staff meeting, and part of our uniform is we're more relaxed in our staff. There's only 5 of us, and so we're more relaxed. But I knew that there were going to be other black businessmen there, and so within African American culture, if you're going to any kind of networking event, you wear a suit. If you're black, it's just a thing, right? Because it's again that whole we have to go above and beyond to even be noticed. And so I wanted to wear a suit, and my boss said, "No, we're relaxed. We don't do all that." And so the whole time I was there, almost every black businessman would not talk to me, which was kind of an so that's a very specific episode, a very specific situation, but it's just kind of a thing that it's an unwritten rule within black culture that we understand to do that. I think I'm getting a little away from your question though.
But so okay, I want to jump in though. I think 2 things. I think that people are like, people want to muddy the waters and say, well, if somebody dresses provocatively, like going back to your analogy of a prostitute or a stripper or whatever, here's the thing. Yes, if somebody is working as a stripper and somebody rapes them, that's still a crime.
Yes.
And that's still wrong. Just because they're dressed that way doesn't mean that they, that doesn't mean that no doesn't mean no. Like no still means no, and it should still be respected. However, even that stripper knows to not wear that to go to the grocery store, right? Or at least most of them, I would say. There might be a few exceptions do that.
I've seen the people of Walmart.
But I mean, okay, but most of them, okay, let's say there's somebody who's a single mom, and that's how she's decided to, everybody's heard that story, right? Songs written about it. She's most likely not going to the grocery store in her getup that she wears at night. And again, I'm sure there's some exceptions, but it still goes back to, it doesn't help the risk of some things, right? Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are in those kind of industries that do get assaulted a lot more commonly than others. Not that it doesn't happen across the board, but I think that it goes even, you were talking about even as an African American having to try harder. I think it goes in general across the board too, and especially even as a woman, there's things that I have to do and look at and try for different, because in certain areas or venues, I'm a woman and I'm not taken as serious.
That's right. You've told me a lot about that in the real estate world.
Right. And so that can happen because I'm young and I'm a woman, right? So I know young men in the business that don't have that same struggle. And I also know older women who don't have that same struggle. Okay? So there is still that idea, but I think it goes to the concept of you have to dress as and prepare and present yourself as the person you want to be for where you want to go, not for who you are now. So, if somebody's working a minimum wage job and they want to own that business one day, they can't walk in there and do the bare minimum as, oh, this job, can't wait to go home. They have to go in and they have to give a little bit more than everybody else there. They have to go in and they have to present themselves as a person who is striving for and aiming for owning that. It's kind of like that idea of, shoot for the stars, right? And I think that that's something that parents, going back to the parent thing, needs to be instilled in their children. I want you to be successful. So, yes, you're so-and-so and, this magazine, whatever, might present such and such as being okay, but you're not going to succeed in this world. I mean, I know that my parents, there were definitely things. They were like, you are not doing this, you are not wearing that, and why? Because I don't want you to be this person. I want you to be this other person.
So that takes us back to the original question then, the parent thing. I think we live in a culture now where we want to we want to blame parents for things that adults do. Like, well, let's go to the heinous thing. Some guy goes in and shoots up a school. And we're like, oh my God, the parents must have raised him from birth to want to go shoot up a school. It's all the parents' fault. There are actually support groups for parents of children who do and commit heinous crimes because they're considered the reason they're demonized. They're the ones who are the reason. If they had just done something different, if they had been a better parent, if Dylan Klebold and what was the guy's name?
Eric Harris.
Eric Harris. If their parents had paid more attention to what they were doing in that garage, Columbine would have never happened. And so now they have to live with those thoughts of people they've never known before, judging them. And so my thought is, I'm in that store. There's a young lady dressed the way that she's dressed, and my first thought is, Dad, you ought to be ashamed of yourself that you are letting your daughter out of the house that way. And some people would say, you know what, you shouldn't shame the dad, the daughter, you need to start to give them a wide berth. They're teenagers, they're making decisions for themselves. But it doesn't matter what age I get, my dad's always going to tell me that I shouldn't sag my pants.
Okay.
I shouldn't present myself a certain way. So I'm wondering, back to the original question, where does a parent's responsibility end for how their child,
Okay.
their offspring, presents themselves to the world around them? I want Kent and Kara to get in on this. I know you've got stuff to say. I want you to.
I have a question. That's all. But okay.
All right, ask your question.
Okay, so because this is what everybody wants to say. Well, some people say essentially hands off, right? You got to give them wide. They're a teenager. Does anybody here know anybody who turned out well with that kind of parenting and ideology? Anybody? Because I don't know anybody where that's worked.
Well, and that's something that I've done a lot of reading on parenting books and things, and although there's lots of different approaches to parenting, there's a general consensus that children really strive under structure and boundaries. They want to know what's expected of them. They want to know when they've done a good job. They want to know when they have done a bad job and how they can improve. And sometimes it's hard, especially when your kids are little, to want to punish them for something because you feel like, well, it's not that big of a deal. But you kind of remember, like, they want me to tell them. At this point, I'm grateful. Asher wants me to tell him yes and no. I mean, he doesn't like when I say no, but I think it makes him feel secure to know that, like, somebody is looking out for his choices. I'm not gonna let him, stir the hot pot on the stove. I'll be there. He can watch me, but I'm not gonna let him do it yet. And he gets mad at me because of it, but I'm not gonna let him burn himself. So there's absolutely a place for structure. And I think it's really, really important for parents to have that from an early age. And I do think things change as kids get older, and you do have to give them a little bit more space because they're becoming their own person. And, a 15-year-old is not a 3-year-old. A 15-year-old knows by now that if you touch a hot stove, you're going to get burned. They probably have even touched the hot stove at some point and gotten burned and gotten some real-life experience. But I think it's really about finding that balance of I take my responsibility seriously to train up my child in the way that he should go. But also, it doesn't mean I am always forcing him down a path because it's the right one. I'm trying to be an example, and this is how I dress, and this is why I dress this way, and this is how I speak, and this is why I speak this way. I had a lot of friends with, like, terrible potty mouths when I was in school. And people thought it was really strange that I never really swore. It was very, very rare. But, my parents never swore, ever. Like, I seriously would have, like, had a stroke if my mom or dad said a swear word. So, like, I still call them swear words. I'm, like, 33 years old. They're swear words.
I say swear words. I mean,
I felt like I was in third grade. He said a swear word.
No. I mean, there's swearing and there's cussing and what goes on Deadwood, and but I still call it swearing, I guess.
Is that still a thing? Okay.
But
No,
Kara,
Deadwood. No, it's been a long
your
time.
Example is pivotal. I think that's really important.
And I think not being embarrassed, not letting embarrassment be your motivation. I think some parents, they're motivated by I don't want people to see my child do something bad and think less of me. I've known some very overbearing parents that do that. Like, they're right on their kid for every little thing they do because they feel like, well, people have to see me taking control of this kid to know that I do not condone that behavior. And I think that what that does is really shut a child down. So I think, like, if embarrassment is your motivation for having a really tight leash, that's not the right approach.
Mm-hmm.
See, I grew up in a military family, and we took the exact opposite tack of what you just said, Kara. I remember, I think I've said this in the podcast, where I got out of school one day, and a bunch of people came running up to me, just laughing their butts off, just talking about, oh my gosh, your mom came to school today. Your brother Chris was acting up in class, so she came to class and pulled his pants down and spanked him in front of the entire classroom. So we all saw his Scooby-Doo underwear as he was getting a spanking. Now, obviously, that would never happen in today's public school system, but it definitely flew in the public school system back then. And so
the thing is, I think your brother is the same age I am, and I never saw that in my life.
Well, we were in Japan as well. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. All right, definitely.
We were in a different country, but the fact that it happened just kind of denotes the type of parenting that my mother conducted in our home. And we lived in a military home, so, just wait until your father came home. You never wanted to hear those words, because in a kid's mind, you're like, Dad kills people for a living. Right. That seems kind of like overkill. I like broke the lamp, Mom. I will go without allowance for a month and buy a new one. Having someone kill me over the lamp seems like you're making a morally suspect decision to get Dad involved in this situation. That's how my mom was thinking as a kid. But it does show that there are different styles of parenting, such as there was a commercial about moms. I don't know if you saw it, Kara, where it was like this group that does breastfeeding, and these moms that feed from the bottle, and these other moms that do kind of like the natural Lamaze thing or whatever, and then the baby goes rolling down the hill, and they all run down the hill after the baby, and you realize it doesn't matter what style of parenting that we utilize. We're all parents, and the kids are what matters. And that was a beautiful statement, but my thought was, some parents get it really wrong. That's just a reality, and so when I stood in judgment of this father yesterday, I don't know if that's the standard. My personal standard is what I ought to judge him on, based upon. But I do think that there needs to be, and maybe this is just the black and white in me, is that we need to be able to call out when parents are being irresponsible. And that's going to be a different line.
And not just neglect or abuse.
The hard part is there's no real line in the sand. That's what makes it impossible, I think. There's no real line in the sand because everybody's going to draw it in a different place.
Well, it's kind of going back to the idea that it takes a village to raise a child. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, it's true. If people want to, if you, Jen, were to, I mean, I think it would be inappropriate for Calvin to do it, but even if you were to go up and be like, hey, just a little advice from me to you, to the 15-year-old girl, I mean, one, she would probably think you were weird, and I doubt the father would appreciate it, because you're right, we want to be like, back off, this is my daughter, I will raise her.
Right, but that's not how they used to do things.
Right.
That's a fairly recent new idea and phenomenon, I guess you could say. I mean, even a lot of people still have a village kind of mentality if they're very, if they have a big family or community oriented, and some cultures still have that.
Looking at that yesterday, me not being a predator but still being a sexual creature, my thought is, you know what? I want my daughter, my 13-year-old daughter right now, to live in a world where guys don't rape her. And where guys aren't more powerful than her in both physical strength and in running the society. I want that to be a reality. But the fact of the matter is, that's not the world she lives in. And because of that not being the world that she lives in, I remember her being here this summer, and she was wearing a pair of shorts. And I said,
Kid rolled them up.
I said, it's not that hot anywhere on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that hot anywhere. Nowhere. Is it that hot? Don't think I won't go to prison to raise you right. So you're going to roll those down.
You will not wear those on the surface of the sun.
But she did. She listened to you.
She listened to me. She rolled them down, and she was fine. I just think that so many, I don't know, it's weird. I think so many parents are afraid to
be a parent.
To be a parent. So many parents are friends, and I'm assuming so much about this dad and this daughter in the 2 seconds that I said absolutely nothing to them.
Maybe that's the only time he got to see her. Maybe he only gets her one day,
I don't know, right? Mom could be raising her. He could be a single dad. I don't know. So there's a lot going into my thoughts about it, but
it's just using him as an example.
Yeah, my thought is the example I'm using is in a standard nuclear family home. Mom and dad are in the home. There's not a ton of dysfunction. Got other kids in the house, siblings to worry about as well. Is there a time when your role as parent ceases to be that of responsibility and more of just wise sage? Like your kid's out of the house.
I think yes. But when you're an adult, and probably even when like 18 and 21, where you're still an idiot. And you know what? It's okay for like your mom and dad to still be like, you know what? You're falling on your butt, or this is like you're gonna get burned really bad. Speaking of that stove, metaphorically, that's not a good idea. I mean, there's times I think when if you're not acting like an adult, or you're not clear on maybe being established, etc. But then there's other people who have like kids and all kinds of stuff at 18, and they're very solid individuals, and maybe they've moved past that point. But I think that until you've kind of figured out who you are, I think that they need to be your parent, and then they can be your friend after.
Yeah,
like my mom's my friend.
I also feel like as our culture gets away from our Judeo-Christian roots, and I don't want to toe the party Republican line in that rhetoric, but it is true. We've gotten away from a more understanding that we are based on enlightened Christian principles in some way, shape, or form. Not everybody is a Christian, but we had a lot of principles based on Christian thought, Christian ideas, Christian worldview. And as we get further and further away from that, the question of parenting changes too, because when I was young, I often heard, as a parent, as your father, as your mother, we are responsible to God for you. We have to answer to Jesus for how we stewarded you, these children that he provided us with, who are now worshipers of God as well. There's something to what Joshua says in the book of Joshua. You guys can do what you want to do. As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord.
That's always how it was at my house. It was like, you're going to church. There's not a choice. There's not an option until you're not living under this roof.
That was the saying is like, as long as you're under our roof, you follow our rules. And that was okay with me. I was okay with that. I think you make such a good point about parents being scared of their kids, because that's definitely the case. I think parents don't threaten things as much anymore. Like, well, if you don't like it, you can leave, because they don't want their 15-year-old to leave. Like, they're not willing to follow through on that threat. Where I think 20, 30 years ago, somebody was okay with their child, maybe going for the night, coming back, and being like, "You're right. I really like eating, so I'm gonna come home."
I got cold. I realized this is a really bad idea.
But in Australia, this was a thing when we were leaving, is that kids could actually sue their parents if they didn't think they were taking like proper care of them.
We did a podcast on that.
A lot of times,
in the first or second season, we did that.
Is what?
Well, in the first or second season, we actually did a podcast about a girl who left her parents' house and then sued them so that they would pay for her college, and they were like, no. That's not how this works. She lost the case, of course.
Yeah, in Australia, they a lot of kids were winning, and they actually were supported by the government. Like they give them like a stipend to have their own place to live, because they didn't want to live by the rules of their parents. And that Australia is a country that's really, really far from the Christian roots that we still are tied to a lot here in America, whether everybody believes it or not. And that was like shocking to me because I thought, I mean, you almost should be scared to parent your children because they literally could leave you and do whatever they want.
That's
and the
really
government's
why
gonna
you
help
moved
them do it.
back.
Yeah.
Let
No,
me,
you know what? My mom would be.
Oh.
She would still
Kent,
take
go,
me down.
go ahead, Kent.
No, I was just gonna, just for context, just jump in real quick with a story about my childhood. I remember one year my mom took me school shopping. It was me, my brother, my mom, my pop, and my little sister. All hopped in the car. We headed downtown to the Gallery Mall. My mom started bugging with the clothes she chose. I didn't say
We're just
nothing at
quoting
first.
Fresh Prince, right?
I just turned up my nose. She said, "What's wrong? This shirt costs $20." I said, "Mom, this shirt is plaid with a butterfly collar." Okay, well, never mind.
You'll ruin my rep. She said, "You're only 16. You don't have a rep yet."
Boom.
This is why I really wish certain shows, and we'll kind of end with this. I mean, it's kind of off the beaten path here.
Look how serious that was.
But there are a couple shows that I watch. One is called Fresh Off the Boat. One is called Blackish, and one chronicles a black family. That would be Blackish. A black family, and what it's like to kind of go through the day life of being a black family in suburbia. And it's really a lot of what is this dad going through as he's trying to do the right thing by his family.
Right.
And then the other show, Fresh Off the Boat, is a story about a Chinese family that moves to Miami and opens a
restaurant.
or Orlando, and they open a Texan restaurant. But it's really also about their family, and it kind of gives you insight into this Asian American family. I thought it was hilarious, and I wish we had more shows that depicted these kinds of things nowadays.
Real parenting?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I won't call it more real parenting than say like Modern Family, because Modern Family gets really, really deep, and they say people cry at the end of every episode. But I've never seen a Modern Family. But when I watch shows like Blackish and Fresh Off the Boat, it returns me to a more idyllic time and makes me think of shows like The Cosby Show, which of course, Cosby's fallen out of favor in recent years because of allegations against him. And then A Different World,
Family Matters.
Full House, Family Matters. You don't see many shows like that anymore. And so with these shows on television that aren't glorifying sex and violence and pushing particular views about black people like Empire or Asian people like only being in karate movies and things like that, I really like that it focuses on family. And I wish we had more programming like that. And I don't know, obviously that's not going to fix the issues of parenting in this city or in this world. But I do believe that having more depictions of families creating boundaries, working hard to raise their kids, trying to make tough decisions and struggling with those tough decisions and showing those conversations between husband and wife in a traditional nuclear family, I think is very, very important. We need more of it. And I think that begins to shape the psyche.
I think it helps make it more, whenever it's more commonplace, it's more acceptable too. It's more normal, so to speak, right? Normalizes it, makes it acceptable, reminds people of what that's supposed to look like. Because some people know they don't have any example. And it's a good reminder of the values that we should be, they don't always get it right and it's Hollywood, but the values that we should be striving for, like my mom and your guys' parents and other good ones out there.
I think that's a good place to land the plane.
Sounds good. I'm dozing.
I'm tired too.
Me too.
All right, guys.
We'll figure out another time to do another one. Okay, so Kara, you're moving. No.
Yeah.
You're moving out of the house you're in right now.
Yeah. Sunday morning, I'm going up. Tad's leaving for Texas, and Asher and I are going up to my parents' house. So we'll be up there through Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Where is up there?
It's they're in Whitehall. It's just like it's on the lake shore, a couple hours north of Kalamazoo.
Okay.
What were you gonna say, Kent? I'm sorry.
Kara, let me just ask a quick question. the room that you usually do the podcast in, there is a small door directly behind you that looks like it would be an excellent place to stash the bodies. What is that?
That's where the bodies go.
Okay.
Obviously.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's just some kind of storage cubby, and honestly, I've been dreading having to pack that because it's where I shove crap. I don't know where else to put it.
Is that what we call it?
Yes. I know where to put this crap, like this dead body.
Yes.
Are the closets empty behind you?
For the most part, yes.
Yeah.
There's an air mattress in there still, and a couple like doilies that I keep moving around, even though I don't use doilies. My grandma gave them to me, so I feel like I should keep them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna have to start doing this after November. Well, in January. I'd like to in November get a bunch in the can, so we might have to do like a few days in a row. So
Okay.
we just have enough to get through. I still want to have one every single Monday through November and
Year's.
December.
Okay.
Yeah, actually up through the first week of New Year's. New Year's will just be like a Happy New Year episode.
Yeah.
like
But good
we do
news,
every
when
year.
I'm in Texas, I'll be on Central Time, so even if you guys are meeting at like 9:30, that's only 8:30 my time.
Yeah,
Oh,
but are you going
that's
to change
great.
Asher's timing though? Because if we still keep it at we've been doing 7:30.
Yeah.
So
That's
if it's 7:30 here, it's 6:30.
As long as Todd's home, it's not a big deal. It's only if Todd's busy doing something, then
Okay.
we might
I figure it'll still work pretty much the same way. Hey, Kent, when does Game of Thrones begin back up for you? Your groups on Sunday nights?
Like April?
Oh, okay. So a while before you got to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of, Kent, we need to have you over for dinner still. We never did that.
Yeah. We need to do
Wait, we never did. Oh, no. You know what? It seems like we did since we spent like 12 hours together on the road. But,
Well, if you're sick of it, then never mind. I'm
no.
just kidding.
I feel like I spent so much time with you already.
I don't know. We can do that. Maybe in the next couple of weeks. I was going to say, by the way, because I know you guys are movie fans and
Yeah.
you see more movies than I do. I wanted to tell you about something you should just do it once because it's slightly more expensive than the AMC 15.
Uh-huh.
But they just opened/reopened a new theater in Birmingham called the Palladium, which was open for quite a while, and then they closed it, and then it just got totally rehabbed and reopened a couple weeks ago. I went to one movie there over the weekend and came away with the feeling like this is how the truly wealthy see movies. This is
Brad Pitt showed
it is
up out the movie.
The martini.
I mean, it was like it made because 3 years ago when AMC redid the old Star John R with like the leather recliners, I thought, oh well, this is the best movie going experience I'll ever have for the rest of my life. The Palladium makes the AMC 15 seem like a bus station.
Really?
And
Wow. Well,
and they're projecting movies on the wall. Okay,
wow.
On an old sheet.
Well,
I gotta go, guys.
I've gone
Just
to the
do it
I'll talk
once.
to you later.
See you later, Karen.
Bye.
I've gone to the Palladium, but it must have been before it was redone. So
Yeah.
they did that much to it, huh?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's they cut the number of screens in half,
Okay.
and they took out the escalators, and so now the only way to get to the theaters is by elevator, and now all of the chairs are leather recliners, but somehow they seem classier than the ones
Huh.
at the AMC. So I don't know that I'm going to go maybe more than like 2 or 3 times a year because the ticket was like $13,
Okay.
but it is
So Palladium
you should do it
12?
once.
Palladium in Birmingham.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, it's 12.
It was 12, and I think they cut it. I thought it used to be
Might
12, and
6
then
or
they
something.
cut the number of screens. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they've already updated it. So it's called the Palladium 12, but it's got 8-screen multiplex showing first
Yeah,
run
there you go.
and indie films.
Okay. Have you ever gone, speaking of another cool theater, have you ever gone to Birmingham 8?
Oh yeah, it's like 2 blocks away from the Palladium.
Right.
Yeah.
But that one's
I mean, not all of
Yeah,
the
it's right around the
movie
corner.
screens are as cool, but if you go into like what is I was assuming the more original or older one in the center there, I feel like it's like that's how they used to do movie premieres. Like that's like going to the movies back in the day.
Yep.
Like it's big red curtain and everything, and all marble floors. That is so.
No, it's beautiful.
I feel like that's so classy and so fun. It's a fun place to go.
And actually,
They have platinum memberships for $350.
They do, but and that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But I think if that's the only place you see movies, it evens out because you get discounts off tickets, you get discounts off. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to spend like $700 at a movie theater, it's really just asking you to put a down payment on what it's buying loyalty. And actually, with that, I have to go because I am going to the AMC 15 right now to see a movie.
What are you going to see?
Right.
I think Crimson Peak.
I'm seeing it tomorrow.
Guillermo del Toro. Yeah, I know. If you can get up here in 11 minutes, I don't think you can. I've been to your place.
I totally will.
All right. See you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.